Do you think that, so do you get the sense that the whole town is kind of talking about it? So the whole town's involved, and we get the sense that the town is not supportive of this. So what's Atticus's defense for why he's doing it?
I think he's saying like trying to make difference, like something. And then like she had asked, "Will you win?" And he told her no, but no one has ever won. But I want to change that, something like that.
Nobody's ever won. There's a very specific line on page 76. He says, "Simply because we were licked 100 years before we started is no reason for us not to try to win." And he's talking specifically about this case. But prior to that, when he's talking to Scout, and she's asked, why are you going to do this if nobody wants you to, if the whole town doesn't want you to do this? And Atticus tells her that, what was that? Well, that's when he's talking to Scout about how to encounter people that are talking about it. But Atticus himself says that he can't do it because if he didn't do it, then he wouldn't be able to hold his head up in town. He wouldn't be able to hold his head up high. They wouldn't have to mind him anymore. Why? What's the correlation there between why wouldn't they have to mind him, in his opinion, if he didn't do this? He's essentially saying that doing this case is the right thing, right? So, but if he was to turn around and not do the right thing, what would that make him if he, told the kids that they had to do the right thing? It'd make him a hypocrite. So he's avoiding being a hypocrite, and he gives multiple reasonings behind it. Let's reference down here at the bottom of page 75. The main one is if I didn't, I couldn't hold up my head in town. I couldn't represent this county in the legislature. I couldn't even tell you or Jim not to do something again. And then so that whole moment right there, I couldn't. We're getting that sense of, him being a lawyer. He's presenting it to his daughter. They have a very open dialogue here. But back to that same question, that the quote on page 76, it's about the middle of the page if anybody wants to look on it with me. But it's, "Simply because we were licked 100 years before we started is no reason for us not to try to win." Where's he coming from on that? This is what's been defined in this classroom as a philosophical quote. That right there has a whole lot of weight to it. And why would he say that? You were getting to it, Cameron. Let me hear some more. You don't know where you're going with it? That's fine. That's okay. All right. Well, let's think about it a little bit. This is speaking to a major theme within the novel about tackling doing something because it's right, even though everybody else is saying he's not going to win. Even if he's not going to win, they're going to try because, for the simple reason that it's the right thing to do. And why do you think that he believes it's the right thing to do?
Because he believes that there should be fair treatment.
There should be fair treatment.
He doesn't believe if he's black, he automatically do it because either one could do it. He basically wants. I think he's kind of like trying to prove that not all people are like the same. They automatically have this feeling that automatically. I just think he wants people to feel like he's not all people are not the same.
It's a good point. I mean, his occupation as a lawyer, one of the key tenets in the United States with our law is that everybody is entitled to a fair trial. And he's making it a fair trial, but is it seemingly a fair trial if the entire town is already counting this guy as guilty? Okay, but in the end, when he's talking about getting this, he brings up Judge John Taylor, and he talks about that that John Taylor was kind enough to give them a postponement What does that give you the inclination there? The entire town's already counting this guy guilty, but John Taylor gave them a postponement to give them more time to work on the case.
He's like wanting to see if Atticus is able to come through with it and change something that hasn't been done well.
It could be reflecting on Atticus, but it also could be showcasing some other aspects about the neighborhood. What could that be? Not everyone's quick to put them in a situation. It could be showing us that maybe not everybody in the town is as racist as most of the town is. It's a progressive. That is a really good point. Now let's go back to another thing that got brought up, talking about fight with your head, not with your hands. What do you mean with that? When he's telling her to put down her fist and use her head. What you got, Nino?
Sometimes it's better to take a more mental approach to getting over a battle.
Yeah. I mean, any of you guys ever had those moments where, I mean, you could have really just reacted on somebody, but take the time to think about it? And so Atticus is asking Scout to exercise that, and she follows through with it pretty good, doesn't she? Because Cecil Jacobs is really pushing her buttons, but she keeps her cool together for 3 weeks, makes it to Christmas, and she's doing it because she wants to keep up with what Atticus is thinking on her. Another thing to think about here. So we've moved on. After we get through talking with the case and talking with Tom Robinson, we get to Christmas. Uncle Jack shows up, got pictures of his fat cat, and then we move on to get to Christmas Day. What do they get for Christmas Day? Anybody get there? They got their air rifles. And the first thing Scout thinks about is what? Shooting Francis. Francis at Christmas. She's not looking forward to being around Francis, is she? And what are the reasons that she's not looking forward to being around family? What do we get to feeling about the family before we even get there? They're racist?
They seem to be like the outsiders of the family.
Who seems to be the outsiders of the family?
Like Scout and Atticus.
So we not only have Scout as the outsider, we have the entirety of her small collective family fitting in yet again with that theme of being the outsider. Because Atticus is, we're getting that sense that Atticus doesn't adopt to the racist tones. He even asks Scout not to use terms like that. And then we get introduced to the family home place of Finch Landing. And what do all the descriptions about it tell us about the family and where they got their wealth from? Anybody pick up on that?
Yeah, I think it was like, so this is in the beginning of the book.
Yeah. Reference into the beginning of the book with Simon Finch, right? And Simon Finch built the family's wealth on what? Slave trade. Yeah. And the descriptions of the home place go right along with that. We have this huge, massive, down in the south, plantation-style home with big open land for cotton. And so we're getting this sense of that Atticus has progressed past that, moved into an outsider role, and thus Scout and Jim are also getting pushed into that role. But on that same tone of the outsider, when we get there, in Alexandria, how does she treat Scout? Terribly. Why?
She's always really like overbearing. Like
She's overbearing.
like that annoying person who always just like is just breathing down your neck all the time. Like you inhale wrong.
We get that sense on her, but we also have some more specific things. What does she think about Scout? She's too tomboy. She thinks she's